And then, of course, trial practice. Actually giving an opening statement to a lawyer, to a jury. And again, this isn't on behalf of a real client. They are simulated fact scenarios, simulated clients, but with a lot of one-on-one feedback from your peers and from the faculty member involved in the course. And then finally, clinics are live clients. So we'll go back to my triangle. Remember, you, the student, are at the top. The faculty advisor is on that one angle, and at the other angle here, we have an actual client. And so our school has lots of clients, as do other schools, but they include clients who have perhaps lost at the trial court level and are going to the Court of Appeals. We have a faculty member who really helps that student represent that client before our Court of Appeals. Civil practice clinic, that's when clients are trying to achieve something in the civil courts, recompense for perhaps being fired and in violation of the law, and they want back pay, for example. Conservation law clinic has to do with environmental rights. Health and human rights clinic, again, what these actual people need or want from their support mechanisms and offices that are there to provide services for health and human rights. Disability clinic, how to get for example, a place of public accommodation to be universally accessible for someone, for example, in a wheelchair or who is blind or disabled in some other way. Immigration clinic, our law professor works with students who are helping real people try to manage a raft of immigration issues as they are trying to either come into their country or help their family come into this country or just have a life here after immigrating to our country. And then the wrongful conviction clinic is a criminal law-based clinic after a criminal defendant has been convicted of a crime, using a lot of times science and further fact-finding to overturn a prior criminal conviction in our American courts. And so that's really hard, sedulous work that a very experienced law professor helps our law students go through to be a part of that kind of legal work. And then the pro bono program, this is another opportunity that's available to all of our law students, in fact required for graduation. Is that correct, Mickey?
For the LLM students, it's an option.
It's an option. Okay, thank you. So for LLM students, but certainly available to work with clients who can't afford to legal work or just need legal services that they can't otherwise find on their own. And we have a pro bono coordinator at our school who helps match up students who want to participate in this opportunity with clients and lawyers who are working for this big effort. While it's not required for LLM students, it is required for lawyers who practice law in Indiana. So there's a huge span of types of legal work and opportunities for law students to work with lawyers who are doing this, because it's part of our way to contribute to our community and to our profession.
And as you can see, it's also an option for the optional practical training OPT work authorization upon graduation. Obviously, pro bono is volunteer. It's a non-paid opportunity. But while students are looking for their paid opportunities, they can do this under OPT and not be penalized for not having a paid opportunity yet. So it's a great way for our students to kind of bridge into a paid opportunity as well. I'd like to go ahead and introduce our two students who are here, and we are going to actually stand up and move so our two students can join you. We have a student in our JD program joining us today, as well as a student in our LLM program, so I will let them take it from here.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Puruda Kotari. I am a second-year JD student, and I would like to begin by saying that I moved to IU McKinney to the city of Indianapolis from California. And one of the biggest reasons for choosing IU McKinney was the fact itself that it's a great school in the heart of a legal city. So what motivated me was the abundance of legal opportunities that are available to students here. Within last 1 year, I am in my third externship program right now. And the best part was that I felt that people were so helping and so cooperative, and the legal community is so huge that you end up in one opportunity and it just leads you to your next. And not only that, I started as an unpaid extern, but now I'm moving on to my paid internship while I'm still in school. So it's not only about working for free if you're a student, because like Mickey said and Professor Baker elaborated, that one opportunity leads to another, and you never know where it takes you. So that was one of the biggest reasons why I'm here, and I can definitely say it has been one of the best decisions that I made when it comes to my legal education.
And would you like to speak about the externship, the experiential learning that you've done?
Yeah, sure. So I started my externship at the Marion County Prosecutor's Office in the field of criminal law, and I was there during the summers following my first year. And the work I learned there was from the ground up. Everything that it takes to work in a practical legal field, from writing drafts to memos to accompanying my supervising attorneys to court, even filing my own brief. And I felt that experience led me from there to Indiana Legal Services, which is one of the largest nonprofits in the state of Indiana. And I worked in their Immigrants and Language Rights Center. The best part about Indiana Legal Services is that they are very forthcoming when it comes to hiring LLM students. So it's not only about JD students. Actually, same with Marion County Prosecutor's Office. They always have so many opportunities for LLM and JD both. And if you just go to them, talk to them that you're looking to gain some practical experience, and I feel they're more than happy to give you a chance. And currently I'm working at the Office of the Indiana Attorney General as a tax and civil litigation intern. And I believe that if it wouldn't have been for my past experiences and my connection with IU McKinney and all this education that I have gained here, it would have been very hard to get a position like this. So
Excellent.
This is all I have to say. Thank you.
You can stay there. You can just lean forward a little bit if you like.
Hello everyone, my name is Swati and I'm the LLM student, and I'm here in my second semester at the McKinney School of Law. So one of the reasons that I joined McKinney was the fact that you have so many experiences and so many people that you can connect to within such a short span of time. So the fact that the school is so close to the downtown area, it just makes it more available and more convenient for everyone to just network with each other. One of the biggest questions I had when I joined the LLM program was, as an international student, you start to wonder what opportunities you have here because you cannot technically be a practicing attorney. But that's where these programs come in. So they allow you to network with people and get more information out, get your name out, and which is why McKinney was such a great place to do it. Because you have such a welcoming environment and you're put on par with the JD students, not just in terms of responsibilities, but also in terms of connecting with people, which was a very good experience for me. And it surprised me as to, this is just my second semester, and it surprised me as to how much I could connect with people, not just in my own LLM program, but with all the other JD students as well. So that was one of my reasons for joining McKinney.
Great. And can you talk a little bit about your work in the Health and Human Rights Clinic and your public policy mediation?
Yes, I work under Professor Frank Quigley. We do a lot of human rights related work. So I mainly do research because as an LLM student, as I mentioned, I can't be a practicing attorney, but I can do a lot of background research and contribute to all the work that the clinic or his seminar does, and that is what I do through the Health and Human Rights Clinic.
Great. And then you are a certified mediator, correct?
Yes.
How did that happen?
So McKinney, which offers this, was a really amazing opportunity. So it offers a mediation course for LLM, JD students, and practicing attorneys as well. So where you get to be certified as a registered mediator in the state of Indiana through this course. You will, of course, have to take a bar to be officially registered, but you will have the opportunity to do so because you have done this training. So that was a great opportunity to not just learn as to how mediation works within the United States, but also to connect with other attorneys such as lawyers and judges and other attorneys, and you are put in the same on the same par with them. So that was a very interesting experience.
Great, thank you. So we thought we might pause here for a second to take some questions since I have these two students here live. If there are any questions from the audience, I'll give you a few seconds to submit that, and then the organizers can send it to us. And I have some other examples of other students, so go ahead and submit your questions if you have any. But we will share some other diverse experiences from LLM students and talk a little bit about one of our recent alumni who is currently working in Indianapolis upon graduation. And then at the end of the presentation, I have some tips for you of things that you should consider if you are interested in experiential learning. Obviously, it's built on the experience here at McKinney, but a lot of these tips are good advice to, no matter where you end up. So good things to think about as you are considering your programs. So do we have any questions?
Thank you very much, Puruja and Swati. If for all the attendees out there, if you do have a question, then you can type it out into the question pane and the question window, and then we could ask those questions. So please feel free to type out any question that you might have. And Swati, if I may, one of the questions that has been asked previously in the two webinars that we hosted earlier this week was with regard to the percentage of marks or the grades for doing an LLM. So that came up like twice, both yesterday and the day before yesterday in both the webinars. So I presume that seems to be like a popular question. So being from India, what do you think would be a suggested grade or suggested background when applying for an LLM?
Well, so I think it very much depends on the school that you are applying to as well. So it's always good to keep your grades toward as best as you can. But so the thing is, we are graded, my law school back in India graded us on a 10 GPA, and here it had to be converted to a 4, I believe. So it's always good to have it 7 or above, but that does not mean that if you have it any lower for any circumstance that you can't get into a law school. It's always good that during your law school you focus not only on your grades but also on other experiences that they value here at the law schools in the United States. So.
All right, thanks a lot. And there is a question from one of our attendees, Sohail. Sohail, thank you for your question. Sohail asked, what are the advantages, scope, and opportunities of this program if you are considering to practice in India? So if you plan to do an LLM from Indiana and then decide to practice in India, what is the scope and opportunity that a person might have? So that's his question.
So how would this help you, either of you and Dan? Yeah.
If you were planning to practice in India, so like, if you're planning to come back to India and, practice over here, like what do you think has been your experience so far?
So, hi, this is Puruda. I'll go ahead So I was born and raised in India, and I was there in December. I'm from the city of Jaipur. So over there, actually, I was finding out what opportunities are there, because in future, if I want to start a law firm there, I want to have my own practice. So I believe the thing is, because of the shrinking of the world now and the countries being so closer together, there is from what I could gather is there is an ever-increasing demand of people who have had some kind of legal education in U.S. and a lot of good name law firms and even like practicing attorneys who are really successful, they want somebody who has an international experience and knowledge. So I believe in the times to come, there should be an abundance of opportunities for students who have had an education there, but who also understand the Indian legal system, and especially people who have done their, is it BLLB? Who have done their BLLB in India. So they have the best of both worlds because they have had a legal education in India, so they are well versed in how the legal system works there, and they also have a strong education from US. So I believe that would be a great combination, because with me the challenge was that I've only had legal education in US, and even then there were so many people who were like that still there will be a lot of opportunities, but if you have knowledge of the civil legal system and the case law system, then it's just a combination of two, and I believe there should be a lot that you can do back there.
So one of the opportunities that I had was, in fact, Ms. Hamster will talk about one of the LLM alumni. Her name is Fernanda Baraldi. So one of the biggest things that I mentioned earlier was through this LLM program, you get to network with people. And through that opportunity, so just as an example, so one of the opportunities I was offered was to be an ethics compliance person because I'm in the international human rights law track. So I was offered a position to be this compliance officer back in Pune in India for a company known as Cummins. So through networking, you get people to recognize that you have opportunities and experiences in not just back in India, but here as well, which they really value. And so they would want people to have, so as Puruda mentioned, that the world is getting smaller and companies need someone who are on a more global scale. So having two different education backgrounds really helps. And that is what certain companies and organizations really look for.
And we have another question from Sudeshna. Sudeshna asks that she has done her LLB from Calcutta, and she has obtained more than 70% marks, which I presume you would understand that it's kind of considered to be really good. And so how does she apply, and is an LSAT a necessity, and what are the prospects after doing an LLM from your school? That's a specific question, so her question is like, I could copy and paste it if you'd like. So I've done my LLB from Kolkata and have attained approximately 70%. So how do I apply, and is an LSAT necessary? What are my prospects after doing an LLM from your school? So yeah, that's her question. And we also have another question from Sapna, but probably I'd ask that after you address this question.
Well, great. I'll take the first question. This is Mickey again, Director of Graduate Programs. So I actually accept the applications. And the good news here is at McKinney, for the LLM program, you do not have to submit an LSAT score. That score is only required, LSAT score, sorry, is only required for the JD program, and only for direct admits to the JD program, in fact. So if you are interested in the LLM program, you can submit your application directly to me via email. There's some instructions on the website. So if you click through on the presenters today and you can follow to our website, you can see the detailed instructions, but we do not have an application fee. If you submit your materials through LSAC, you do pay an application fee, but we don't require it to be submitted through LSAC. So we try and make opportunities for students who are applying to a lot of schools to not make it a financial barrier to apply to our school. So you can apply for free. We do not have a deadline either for the applications. However, for students who need visas, I would recommend that you apply no later than June 1st. That gives you some time to get your visa paperwork and everything in order. We certainly look at the strength of the application, so while grades are important, it's not the only indicator, as Swati mentioned. We really look for the strength of the applicant in all regards, including letters of reference, personal statement. If you have done your research on the school, that is a tip I'll give you. It really stands out in an application when an LLM student can speak specifically to strengths at our law school and where they see them fitting in, who they would like to work with, what opportunities we have here at the school. So as you are applying to LLM programs, I would highly recommend that you work that into your personal statement, that you show how you are a good fit for our particular school. That's always a strength point. If you are worried about your grades, if you had a rough year, I know I've had students in the past who have been in war-torn countries, so of course there was a semester where they didn't do so well, they had a lot of personal issues perhaps, or health issues. If you speak to that in your application, our admission committee will take that into consideration. They just like to, they want to see that you have the skills necessary to succeed here. We don't want to set anybody up for failure. So we're looking for students who will be a strong fit here. In the same regard, if you're looking for something that we don't have at our law school, that's something that I usually screen applicants for. So I might have a conversation with you, happy to submit your application to our admissions committee. But if you're looking for a program that we don't have here, I may refer you to some other programs. That being said, we do have many programs here, so it's not hard to find something that fits you well. But I would say as an applicant, do your research. Make sure you know what programs are offered at different schools. And like I said, and like you've heard from the testimonials here today, ask in the admissions process what kind of experiential learning opportunities are available to you as an LLM student. We have the unique benefit of being the only law school in Indianapolis, which is the capital city. That's why we have so many opportunities. More than half of the attorneys in the state of Indiana are McKinney graduates, so our network is vast. It is much easier to find an opportunity here because we have all of those benefits. That being said, if you're someone who knows you really want to go to New York, that's really important to you, I say certainly do your research, talk to those programs, but if you know that you're going to need experiential learning opportunities to make a difference when you go home or when you go to the job market, be sure that you ask that question, because our school is kind of unique. In many places, it's difficult for an LLM student to get an opportunity because the JD students are already so competitively trying to get those opportunities. So be sure that's one of the top questions that you ask schools when you're applying. As far as using the LLM upon graduation, I'll put that back to my students who have done the research before they came here. So Swati, if you want to speak to that.
So with regard to which school that you want to apply for the LLM program, I think it's very important that you know exactly what you want out of the LLM program. So I, in fact, took a year off after my LLB program. And so because I really wanted to know if I just wanted a general LLM or wanted to focus on a specific track. And so since I realized that I wanted to focus on human rights law, so McKinney was a really good choice, because not all law schools have the opportunity to specialize in certain tracks. So I did apply to but a couple of schools in New York and Washington as well. I did get in, but the problem was they did not have the specialized track that I wanted, which was so great about McKinney, because they have a world-class faculty and a program that is just catered for what you would like to get out of it. So I think that's a very important factor in considering when you apply for a school or for a particular program.
Thank you very much. There is also another question. I think, Mickey, you probably might have addressed it while you were answering this particular question. It's asked by Sapna Sharma. Sapna asked that, is there any kind of exams we have to go through to join LLM program over there after graduating law from India? Which I presume the answer is, except for the two, I mean, I presume that you'd be in a better position to answer the question. So I think you probably addressed it very briefly when you were answering the earlier question.
Sure, thanks for the question, Sapna. So you do not have to submit any kind of, we don't do LSAC, we don't do GRE, you don't have any of those standardized test scores, with the exception of the TOEFL exam. So you do have to submit an English exam. Now, There are certain, I know that many of you on the call today are from different countries, so certain countries where English is the language of instruction, there are a couple specific cases, you can actually get waived from the TOEFL exam. So if you are curious whether you need to take the TOEFL or the IELTS, you can send me an email and I can do a very quick scan of your materials to let you know if you would qualify for the waiver or not. So we certainly take that into account too. But yes, you do not need to submit any kind of standardized test, no LSAC, no GRE, no GMAT, none of that. We know that those are difficult to take abroad, and frankly, they don't give us as much information about how successful you're going to be here. We don't find them to be particularly useful to our admissions committee, so we base our decisions on the strength of your file.
There is also one more question from Apurva Yadav, who seems to have just dropped out of the I mean, it could be a connection issue, I'm not sure, but she asked the question as to what is the procedure for admission? What is the exact procedure for admission in your school? So that's her question. The exact procedure for admission.
No problem. Again, we try and make it easy. All the information is on our website. So after the call today, you're welcome to click on the links that go back to our website. Look under Academic Programs, LLM Program, Admission Procedure. So there are two ways to apply. I'm going to start with the easiest one because this is the one I recommend. You would submit all of your materials directly to me via email. You would scan them. With the exception of your letters of reference, those need to come directly from your reference writers. So that can happen in two ways. It can be sent via mail, signed and on letterhead from your reference writers, so your law professors or your law colleagues who are writing your letters of reference. They need to come directly there. Otherwise, those people can also send me their recommendation letters via email, as long as they come from their professional email address. We cannot accept them from personal email addresses, so no Hotmail, no Yahoo, no Gmail, but professional email addresses, we can also accept the reference letters that way. In addition, we accept unofficial transcripts for the initial admissions review. So you can send scanned copies of your transcripts here to get an admissions decision. The official copies are not required until later in the process. And it kind of depends on different factors that relate to your home country's system. Most students can simply come to the school with their official transcripts and they submit them to the Office of International Affairs during their first semester with us. They kind of check the box that way. But there are other systems that require those official transcripts to come before the visa documents are generated. So again, if you have questions, you can email me. It's kind of a case-by-case basis. I can do a quick review of your file to let you know which of those programs you're going to need to do in advance, if you're going to need to submit your official transcripts or not. So we have rolling admissions, no deadline. After you submit your documents, you get an immediate response from me saying that I have your application and that I will review it for completeness. If you are missing anything, I will email you, have a conversation about what's missing. If I sense a weakness in your file or I see that you have done some amazing experience on your CV that you didn't talk about in your personal statement, many times I'll have a conversation with you about how to make that a little bit stronger for the admissions committee. Again, I have a vested interest in you putting your best foot forward, so I often work with the students before I send them to the admissions committee. That's one of the benefits of having a tight-knit program here. We don't have thousands and thousands upon LLM students, so I can work personally with them. After you get your application sent to the admissions committee, it usually takes about 2 weeks to get a decision. Sometimes it's much faster than that. Upon admission, you will receive additional instructions about how to apply for the visa paperwork. So again, we've tried to make it easy on you. We do an initial step so that we can get quick admission decisions out to you. We know that you're looking at lots of different schools. Your financial package will come with the initial admission decision. Upon admission then, I will guide you through the visa paperwork process, which generally just means that you're working with our Office of International Affairs. You do have to submit some additional documentation, some financial documentation, but you'll notice that we don't require that financial documentation with your first package because we want to make a decision based on the strength of your initial package. The financial documentation is really only required to support your living here in the United States for visa purposes. So we do not make an admissions decision based on your financial situation. Now, something to keep in mind, We do offer need and merit-based scholarships. So that means merit, meaning you are an outstanding student, you have amazing experience, you stand out in our pool. We may give you a merit scholarship. However, we also give need-based scholarships. So if you're someone who has significant need, there is a question on the application where you can choose to disclose that. If you'd like to share that you have significant financial need, you can certainly do that, and we can offer need-based scholarship that way as well.
Thank you very much. And there is one more question again from Sudeshna, but just to address one particular point of what you have while you were answering this question. Sudeshna, I'll just ask you a question, but just so that I can before I forget, I can ask Mickey this particular question, and that would be helpful for many Indian law students as well, and also law students from other countries as well. And not to be disrespectful to any law school, but you mentioned that you do not accept recommendation letters if they are sent from a Gmail or a Hotmail account. It's unfortunate that not all the law schools in India have an email ID with their particular domain extension. Unfortunately, that is not the case. So many law professors have only a Gmail or a Hotmail, and that too, even having a Gmail or a Hotmail account in some for some elderly professors who have been practicing or teaching for several years is more of an exception rather than the rule, you know. So so in case you do get an application from a Middle Eastern or a Indian or an Asian country where the professor has a Gmail or a Hotmail account, how are you going to treat that, or how do you address this particular issue, because it's actually an issue?
Yes, thank you for submitting that question. I meant to mention that. That's why we also accept them via paper. So if you are in a country that doesn't have professional email addresses in the same fashion that we would have here, the letter can be written in the old style on a piece of paper on a letterhead, which has their official position listed at the top. They would close it, and then they would sign and seal it. They can give that letter to the student. So as long as the student does not open the letter and mails it directly with the rest of the materials, I can consider it official. The issue is that I have to have official documentation from letters of reference, and many times I will actually reach out to the reference letter writers. It gives me a better picture for the student, so I may contact them. So if they have a Gmail address, I'm happy to email them at that Gmail address. That's no problem. We can have a conversation that way. But in order for me to consider the letters of reference official, they need to either come from a professional email address, or if that does not exist, they can come the old way, based on paper, that's signed and sealed by the reference letter writer.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And there's also a question from Sudeshna and another question from Sohail. Maybe I can clump these two questions together because it's kind of overlaps with each other. One is Sudeshna asks, what documents do we need to submit for admission? If you could kindly specify. Basically, she wants like a breakdown of the documents that is required. And second question, which is from Sohail, is that what is the best time to submit his application for admission if he is completing his LLB in September 2017, no, September 2018. So when should he submit his application?
Sure. I'll start with that last question first so I don't forget it. You can submit your application before you have finished your program. I would recommend doing it in your last semester. So if you are going to be September 2018 graduate, you could submit it, a couple months prior. The earliest admission period for you would be January 2019. We have a start date in August and as well as January every year for the LLM program. JD students only have one admission period. So if you're interested in the JD program, that's just in the fall every year, August every year. But LLM students, you can start in either August or January. You can apply in your last semester. We will require a final transcript of grades, obviously, documenting that you have graduated to make you eligible for our program in that case. As far as the documents that are required, on our website, there is an application that you'll need to complete. On the final page, there's a checklist of what you need to submit with it. So if you answer all the questions in the application, one of those questions includes a personal statement question, so that would be, in addition, your personal statement. We need your transcripts of grades as well as a copy of your diploma if your transcript does not indicate your graduation date. So if you come from a country where your transcript also shows your graduation dates and your full name and all of that, then just the transcripts are sufficient. In addition, we need 2 letters of reference. I would recommend having law professors write those, or some of your legal colleagues if you're currently practicing law, that can speak to your strengths as a legal scholar, legal researcher, and how you might perform here in the academic setting. And then the last thing is the TOEFL exam. So that is the English score. So you can either submit a TOEFL or an IELTS if you would like to submit a standardized test of English. However, we also accept graduation from certain qualifying English programs. So we have 2 of those here in Indianapolis. One is on our campus. It's called the Program for Intensive English, also called PI. And if you graduate from level 7 of that program, that satisfies the English requirement. So if you're planning to come here without English, you can start in advance in one of those language schools. What we would do is give you a conditional admission letter saying that once you satisfy the condition on the English requirement, that you could join us in our program. So we do have many students who choose to do that option. It gives them a little bit more time in Indianapolis, they get comfortable with the culture, and then they join the law school. So that's one program for intensive English. Also, the ELS centers that you can find throughout the United States. If you graduate from level 12, you can also be considered proficient in English. So those are basically the documents that you would need. I recommend that you also submit a resume or a CV. It's not required, but it certainly helps your package. You do not need to submit any other documentation. Sometimes students send me high school transcripts or certificates from participating in certain opportunities abroad. You don't need to submit any of that documentation. If you speak of those experiences in your personal statement, that is sufficient.
Thank you very much, Mickey. So if there are any further questions, you can type it over here. Otherwise, like one other question which we have been receiving quite a bit, in fact, during our last webinar also, was that what are the scholarship opportunities that are available? Like, you know, what would be the like living cost and the tuition fee, and what can be expected as a scholarship? That is something that has been asked quite frequently in the past 2 webinars.
Yes, so great news. IU McKinney, we have been ranked actually the last 3 years by the International Jurists to be the best value law school for LLM programs. And that's because we've done 2 things. Instead of raising our tuition when a lot of other LLM student programs were developed, we actually decreased our tuition. In addition, we give significant financial scholarships to our students. In fact, in fall 2016, 100% of our LLM students received some level of funding. Because we know that it is a significant investment to come here, we have funded programs. So it's very, very unusual to get a full tuition scholarship. We've done that in the past when we had USAID funding, for example. We started a law school in Egypt, and we had funding to be able to provide full scholarships to students. But unless we have some of that significant governmental funding or third-party funding, we can't usually offer full ride tuition. However, I will tell you that the median tuition remission is about $10,000 to $13,000 depending on the semester. So if you think about it, our tuition, which we do not discriminate between in-state and out-of-state students, so everybody pays the same rate, whether they're American or international in the LLM program, that total is about $35,000. So if you subtract $15,000 from that through a fee remission or a scholarship, that's what we call them here, then the remaining tuition is only $20,000. So I also encourage students who are applying to law schools to look at the financial picture. Sometimes students get confused. They might get an admission to a New York law school, for example, where the tuition is $50,000 and they get a $20,000 scholarship, which means they have $30,000 left to pay. And then we offer them a $15,000 scholarship, which means they have $20,000 left to pay. And sometimes they get confused between the numbers because they think that the higher scholarship means that the New York Law School values them more. But I really strongly encourage students to do the math. Look at the tuition total that you're going to be required to pay depending on where you go. In addition, look at the cost of living. Indianapolis is the 13th largest city in the nation, but it has one of the lowest costs of living. And I can provide some additional information if you would like to see how Indianapolis compares, but you can also do this research your own online by going to a city standards of living, and you can see what the different costs for rent would be and those types of things that makes Indianapolis an affordable place. I don't know if one of you guys want to speak to how it was affordable for you to live here.
So for me, it was a significant difference. I was settled in San Francisco Bay Area, and I was like literally spending twice of what I'm spending here. And here I'm living right downtown in a really nice apartment complex and only 4 minutes walk from the law school. And the cost of living is half of what I was spending in California. So I think that was one of the biggest reasons why I did not have to think, like the scholarship opportunities I got here, in addition to the low cost of living and the abundance, the plethora of legal opportunities was the reason why I am here. So I would definitely say that compared to New York and California and maybe even Chicago, you can easily get by in 1/3 or 1/2 of the cost, and you can live better. So it's not only about saving money, but you don't have to live in like crammed up spaces, sharing it with like 4 to 5 people. Here you can have actually a good personal space, and I think having a good place to stay at such a low cost would also help you concentrate better on your studies, because you're not constantly worried about living with so many people, which is often a case in hugely populated big cities, and that is the reason I'm here.
Yeah, so as Ms. Hamster mentioned, it's very important to know how much it costs, the fee costs in each law school, because as mentioned earlier, you have to do the math, which is one of the things I had to think about when I applied to the school, this program here and the one in New York. So it's very important to know that, like I said, the program that you want to get into and the opportunities offered, as well as the cost of living, is a really important factor, because even if the law school can give you a scholarship, so it can't necessarily cover your living expenses, which can tend to get really expensive in some cities, which is a great thing about Indianapolis. And the proximity of downtown to the law school also provides a really good opportunity. There are very good apartments right across the law school, which is where I live. I just walk across, which is extremely convenient. So that is something that a lot of other law schools in other big cities will probably not be able to offer.
And I would like to add one more thing. The best part is that I don't need a car here. Like, you don't have to pay for parking. You don't need a car because everything is within 5 minutes walking distance. And, you know, worst come to worst, you can take an Uber, and that can take you anywhere within like 10 minutes. So all my So, I mean, I have walked everywhere ever since I have been here, and we have grocery stores to all the amenities. Everything is within like 10 to 15 minutes walking distance. So it's not like that you have to travel somewhere, or students would have to, you know, arrange for some kind of transportation, because everything is right here, your school, your work, things you need to buy, home. So that helps a lot.
Well, thank you so much. There is also another question, but I presume he has joined quite late. So, I mean, there's another attendee who just joined recently, just now, and it's one of the questions which you already answered. Narayana, thank you very much for asking this question, but it's already been answered. But nevertheless, I mean, it was just addressed right now. Nevertheless, I leave it to Mickey to answer it once again. So his question is like, how much is the cost of the LLM program, the exact cost? and if there is any scholarship. That is, he just joined right now and he asked this question. You can just very briefly explain it to him.
Sure, I don't mind answering it again. It's one of the great benefits here at McKinney. Our tuition, it does not discriminate between international and Indianapolis natives, so everyone pays the same rate. The full rate is $35,000 for the full program, all 24 credits. However, we give significant financial scholarships, which on average is about $10,000 to $15,000. So if you deduct the $15,000 from the 25, you'd be looking at tuition and fees at about $20,000. So I wanted to go ahead and highlight, we have about 5 more minutes. I wanted to highlight a couple other externship experiences so that you can get a feel for what some other students have done here, but feel free to interrupt me at any point if you have some more questions coming in. So Fernanda is from Brazil, and she is one of our recent graduates from 2015. She did an externship at Eli Lilly and Company, which was one of the biggest international companies here in Indianapolis. So the externship with Lilly, she says, was a very important learning experience for me as I could witness real-life application of the principles I was learning in law school. Additionally, it also gave me an insider's view of how it is to work in corporate America. So what's interesting about Fernanda is that she also did an externship at the court, and when she graduated, she had 2 job offers, one from Eli Lilly and one from Cummins, which is a huge international corporation in Indianapolis. So American students would die for these opportunities. This is one of our international LLM students who does not have a law license here in the United States, has now an amazing job over at Cummins. Sue Tool from Mongolia worked at the Indiana Supreme Court. She says, it was an invaluable experience and a great chance for me to do pro bono in Indiana Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is different than other courts by its discretion whether to take the case or not. I worked on transfer petitions asking the court to take the case. Even to decide whether to take it or not, the court does so much effort going through all the documents of that case, doing research, and then decides to grant or deny a transfer. This procedure made me understand the concept of discretion, which is not about taking cases that the court likes. So you can see that because we are the only law school in Indianapolis, students have the opportunity to work with the Supreme Court, which is an amazing experience for many of them. And actually, Swati made mention of another thing that we forgot to mention in the past, but we are the only law school in the United States to have special consultative status with the United Nations, which is part of what Lini from Brazil did. So she, as part of this special partnership that we have down in Guantanamo Bay, we have observation status. So she went down there, and she says, to attend a hearing in the case against the alleged masterminds of the 9/11 attack in the World Trade Center and the Pentagon and Guantanamo Bay Naval Base, Cuba, was the most amazing experience of my academic life. Besides the unique chance to face and study many human rights issues in an extremely remote place, I flew in a Jetstream 31, 15 seats from Andrews Air Force Base to Guantanamo Bay. I was housed in a military facility. I spent 5 days with other NGO observers. We had meetings with prosecution and defense teams. I stayed a few steps away from Al-Qaeda members and victims' families. What else could be more amazing? She actually put together a blog, and she is a judge in her home country in Brazil, and I'm not kidding. She had so many followers on her blog, I thought maybe all of Brazil was following her. But she documented her experience down there, and it was truly a life-changing experience. And all of these students, by the way, have volunteered to share about their experiences via email to any student who has interest. Siraj is our recent graduate from Saudi Arabia. He did his externship at the National Collegiate Athletic Association, the NCAA. I will move through the quotes now since we are running a little low on time, but you can just see that he'd had sort of a more corporate experience. Then Osama bin Mahood from Saudi Arabia worked at the Court of Appeals, and you can see in some of these photos the students are getting their awards for their pro bono experience. So Osama was one of those students who did a lot of pro bono hours and actually got an award at graduation for the number of hours that he did. So just to review, some tips for those of you applying for LLM programs. Look beyond the academics. Yes, the academics are important. We take them very seriously at McKinney, but you also want to look at the experiential learning opportunities that you're going to have, because that's what's going to matter. In addition to your GPA when you leave, what did you do with your legal training when you were in the United States? So I highly recommend that any school that you're applying to, that you ask them, that you do your research, you ask them what are the placement offerings and the statistics for LLM students at those schools that you're interested in. what are the chances that you could get an externship? And if they say the chances are good, say, great, I would like to talk to a current LLM student who is currently doing one of those, because those students are going to give you the inside scoop. Again, I'm happy to connect you with any of our students. You heard from 2 of them today, but they represent 2 of many here at our law school. Then I would recommend that you attend externship fairs and informational sessions that are offered at your school from the very beginning. As soon as you get to campus, make sure you know when those are, and you go and you hear about them so that you can start to do your research, because there's probably going to be some prerequisites. For the clinics in particular, there are prerequisite classes that you have to take. So those can be challenging for LLM students to do, but not impossible. We've had many LLM students who've done the immigration law clinic, for example. But it does require some prerequisites. So those are things you're going to want to do in your first semester. So be in contact with your admission coordinator at the schools where you're going and say, hey, I really want to take part in these opportunities. What do I need to take in my first semester to be able to make that happen? And then last, be flexible regarding your placement. Consider multiple opportunities. Many of you will come to the law school and think, oh, I really, really, really want to do this one externship. But if you open your mind to doing a variety of externships, you might get the opportunity to do many. For example, Garuda talked about several opportunities that she's done. And because her mind was open in the beginning, I've had other students who didn't get their first or second choice, for example, got their third choice and then were amazed. Suraj is one of those students who was at the NCAA. That was not his first choice, but then he had a really great experience when he was there. So I say be open, apply for a lot. You just never know. And it's a match process. So if the firm has an opening and you have an interest, then it's a good match. Some semesters they might not have an opening, so keeping your mind open and applying for multiple opportunities is key. And then allow time to apply in multiple semesters. Maybe you apply for the fall as well as the summer, for example. And then take a class from a supervising faculty member. If you know who the faculty members supervising those externships are, get to know them. Explain your interest and your background in your application, and then definitely proofread your application. That is the quickest way to get dismissed, is if you don't do careful proofreading. So here's my contact information, and I know you'll have it at the end of this call. You can email me. I'm happy to put you in contact with any of the students who spoke here today, as well as students who couldn't join us but shared information. And I wish you all the best of luck. This is a very exciting time for you. I myself studied abroad for a year, and it was a life-changing experience, and I'm still in contact with those students from 20 years ago. So take it seriously. Do your homework, because this is your chance to make a real difference in your life and in the lives of others. So I applaud you for taking this step, and I wish you the best of luck. Happy to answer your questions.
Thank you so much, Mickey. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much, both Swati and Purida, and also Professor Baker. Thank you so much for taking the time. You know, it's been a very engaging presentation, and you have answered a lot of questions. Thank you so much. So if there is any further question, I presume the attendees can get in touch with you directly on this email ID. That should be fine, right?
Excellent. That would be great.
All right. Thank you so much. So with that, we'll come to the end of this presentation. So a recording is available. Like we can email it to you, Mickey.
Excellent, and enjoy the virtual law week. This is an amazing experience for you to be a part of.
All right. Thank you so much, Mickey. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.